All right, sir, we're on.
All right.
um, Welcome back, everybody. Um, Hope you all enjoyed the last few videos. Uh, we have a special guest with us once again. Um, Excuse me. Y'all might see me eating a fresh cherry here or there. But we have with us once again our brother joining in with us today. We're going to talk about a few things. I want to welcome back Brother Perry. How's it going again with you, sir?
Very well. Thank you. Greetings, everybody. Greetings and salutations.
Yes, sir. And we're talking today. Just we had a conversation the other night, and been meaning to get back um, to having individuals come on, and there's a whole lot of things that I have lined up that I have not had the time to get situated. However, I wanted to bring him back on so that we can have this discussion and talk about a few things so that you can hear from someone other than myself and one of the individuals that was uh, commonly asked for. With the introduction of these videos, we have four um, individuals that's commonly asked about because of the videos that they had put out. Some have asked about the family from San Antonio, um, but primarily um, Brother Perry, uh, Brother Kill, and Brother Edwards. So with Brother Perry, for those of you who uh, may not recall or did not know, is a former member, um, came in at an early age. You weren't born
I
in the
was
house
born
of,
in House of Prayer.
were you born in the house of prayer?
Yeah.
Yeah, and grew up and went out and established a house of prayer actually. But I'm gonna go ahead
Mm-hmm.
and be quiet, and I'm gonna let him fill you all in and kind of give a refresher with his background before we get started, sir.
Well, yeah, I was born in a House of Prayer, and I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. But my father was in the military, so we did a lot of traveling in my formative years. You know, uh, when he retired, we came back to Columbia. I went to college, Benedict College, and I left Benedict my junior year. I got accepted to the University of San Francisco and moved back to San Francisco. But my father actually retired in San Francisco. He was one of the last military people in, or Navy, in United States Treasure Island.
Mm.
And they shut that place down now. And so he retired there. If you know anything about United States uh, Treasure Island, when you go on base, there's a building on the right, and that's the building he retired in. It used to be, before it was a military base, it used to be the World Fair, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was called. And that building was like a reception center or something like that. But anyhow, after he retired, we came back to Columbia. I went to Benedict, ended up getting accepted to University of San Francisco. I moved back to San Francisco. I had a music scholarship, music money. And so when I went to register for my classes in San Francisco, at University of San Francisco, they said, "And how will you be paying for this?" I said, "Well, I have a music scholarship." They said, "We don't have a music program." I said, "What?" I said, "Y'all got a football team?" They said, "No." I said, "I can't learn nothing here." So, that happened to be a couple weeks before the dedication in Portland.
Mm. Oh, that's how
So,
you ended up out there.
right. My wife and I, we went to Portland for the dedication, just for the dedication. But I think it was on a Saturday night. And so, we standing out in the cold rain. Of course, it's the Pacific Northwest, so it's raining. singing, we're waiting on the man with the key in the rain.
He was talking about a
and
song that we sing at the House of Prayer. I was letting them know that you're talking about a song that we sing in the House of Prayer during the dedication
mm-hmm.
of a building, while all the people are congregating outside, can't go inside. They
Can't
sing
go
this
inside.
song,
You gotta stand out there.
right?
Rain, sleet, snow, whatever. You gotta stand out there and wait for the man of God.
Singing that song, we are waiting, waiting, waiting,
Waiting, waiting,
waiting.
waiting.
We are waiting. Open up the door.
Mm-hmm. Please open, open,
Open,
open,
open,
open.
open. For
Please
the
open.
waiting for
Yes,
the
sir.
man with the keys to let us in. Then going to the next one. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Memories.
man, you sing so much with that song. We'd be out there singing for forever.
Oh
So
gosh.
we went to Portland, went to the dedication and all, and we stayed in a hotel to spend the night. And I remember the next morning, I couldn't sleep really good. So the next morning I woke up and I was just looking out my window over Portland. It was right on the Willamette, right on the river. It was so beautiful. I said, I'm gonna look into a school up here. And so I looked into a school and I ended up getting accepted to Portland State. That's the only school I looked into and applied for. So I got accepted to Portland State. So I went to Portland and I was there for a while, became the assistant pastor um, with Apostle Thompson.
Mm. That
And
was right
when
after they moved there from, was it New Bedford?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
they went from New Bedford and moved to Portland. And so when we first got there, it was just Apostle Thompson and his wife, Saint T, Lori. And then there were these two other members, Lauren and I can't remember the name. Two young white people. I think they was about 22, 23. I was about the same age at that time. And then there was a sister who's originally from Philly, but she wasn't really going to the house prayer much at all. You know, she used to the East Coast flavor, established house prayer and all that. But so she wasn't really coming out much at all. But she was a member that would stop by every once in a while out there. And her husband, but he wasn't even a member.
Now, this was back in, what year was this?
98.
90, okay.
Yeah, 98.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Korean woman that didn't speak English at all.
Wow.
She didn't speak English at all. But she would come to the house of prayer. I used to ask myself, like, why does she even come here? Like, nobody can understand her. She can't understand anybody. She didn't speak English at all, but she would come. And she was a faithful one. If the house of prayer doors was open, she'll stop by, smelling like garlic, because she used to eat garlic, fresh garlic.
Wow.
So let's see. So there were about 6 people there on a Sunday, And then we were there until 99. And we went back to San Francisco after I finished school. We went back to San Francisco. And we were in San Francisco for just a few months because we were looking for an apartment. We were staying with Apostle Davis, my father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
But he stayed in the projects. In the projects in San Francisco, people only know of the San Francisco that they see on TV. That's
the
not
hills.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
San Francisco is the hood. The projects were so scary. I would be afraid, and I'm from Saxon Homes in Columbia. That is the project. I would be afraid to stand on the porch in San Francisco because it's California in the 90s, so you never know when somebody driving up the street in a car is going to drive by shoot.
They were dealing with Crips and Bloods too?
Now, San Francisco don't have Crips and Bloods. There's neighborhoods out there.
Okay.
When you go East Bay more, that's when you get into Crips and Bloods. By the time you get to Sacramento, yeah, Crips
Okay.
and Bloods, very bad. And so we were in San Francisco for a while. The rent was so high, we couldn't find a place to stay. I was teaching in a school, and I used that for an opportunity to go explore Sacramento. I did a field trip for my students. I said, we're going to go to the capital city for our field trip. But I took my students, but it was really for me to, go see Sacramento, get to see how far it was from San Francisco, see what the potential was. And so we ended up moving to Sacramento, got us an apartment down there, and that's where I started the house in the apartment. And, was there for years. To this day, I love Sacramento, but that was the end of my house prayer journey. No, well, I was living in Sacramento when I left the house of prayer, when I stopped going to the house of prayer. I was living in Sacramento when I was running San Francisco. I was just having to go to San Francisco every week. I would leave on like Friday night after work, and I would generally stay until Tuesday night after service or Wednesday. Then I would come back to Sacramento. I would only work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I was poor. Oh my goodness, I was so poor.
Putting all that money on the road.
Right. And then putting it in the house of prayer. I was still a house of prayer member. Whatever I had, it wasn't even whatever I had left over. The house of prayer came first. And everything, I just had to save something to get on that road.
Mm-hmm.
But after, they were trying to set me up to be the pastor of San Francisco, which I did want. I wanted it because I wanted to develop that area. I knew if I was sitting in that seat, I could help develop that area.
Mm-hmm.
I always had Sacramento kind of on the wheel. And then Edwards was in Lincoln. He didn't know that I was going to set him up to be the pastor of Lincoln. He didn't even know that.
Yeah, Edwards is Brother Joshua.
Talking on this video, did he know that?
Edwards is
he was
Brother
doing such
Joshua.
an awesome job on his own. I was like, man, ain't no reason for me to block him. Ain't no reason for me to try to make him come to Sacramento, make them come back. He's doing an awesome job out there. So I would go out to Lincoln, to where he was hosting Bible studies. I would go to them. I wouldn't even ask them to come to Sacramento. And like I said, secretly, it's because I was going to try to get them established as their own house of prayer. That was always my vision, to help develop the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
When I get into San Francisco, I want to get busy in the community, to be a community man, have to help increase that congregation there, but also to enhance, because I believed in the house of prayer. So also to enhance that community. But after that, my next step was to develop on I-5, continue going north. There's Medford, Oregon, and Eugene, Oregon. And those, when I was in Portland, I was playing on this quartet group that was actually called the Sons of Thunder. And I would be on this radio show sometime, and the radio host was Pritchard, I think, or I can't even remember the last name now because this is in the 90s. But it's Apostle Munns.
Wow.
Uncle and auntie.
Right.
And Apostle Munns is my uncle. So it was like we were family. And so I had developed a reputation up in Portland, and then being a preacher from down south, I was bringing that Southern Jubilee flavor of preaching. They love to hear me preach. And so, I had a reputation. And so my plan was to establish a house in Medford and Eugene. And so Oregon would have 3 houses of prayer, at least Portland, Eugene, and Medford. And all of those are on I-5. And so that will, you could take I-5 from not really from LA. I-5 is off of LA, but you could take the 405 from San Diego to LA, get to LA, get on the 5.
That would
somewhat
connect all of those houses. Was it San Diego, Sacramento, LA, Portland, Seattle,
Sacramento,
San Francisco as well?
The whole strip, off of 5 some kind of way. And so Medford and Eugene would have been on that strip as well. So any visitation to Portland, we could justify a visitation to Medford and Eugene.
Right.
So, that was my plan the whole time. But I started seeing things and realizing, like, how am I sleeping at a bus stop or in my car in my suit because I don't have anywhere to stay? Or when I did get a place to stay, it was always in the hood. I remember being woke up 5 o'clock in the morning with gunshots literally right out my window. Or when I would go in another place I was staying, still in the hood, when I would go to San Francisco, I'd come back and somebody had been killed on my yard, in the yard of where I was staying. Stuff like that. I'm like, things got to be better than this. Something's wrong.
And this was, you were an elder at this time. Were you holding any positions?
This is after my pastoralship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is after my pastoralship.
That's right. When you went to be a delegate in D.C., that's when you had to stretch what you had because they don't really give any financial assistance other than the few $100s that the congregation is supposed to help with.
That would make sense. But no, that was actually during my pastoralship.
Oh, wow. And you still had your credentials, so you had to go to Washington anyway.
I had to go to Washington, yeah.
Right. And my argument has been, not even an argument, but to make everyone aware that the elders were required by the Constitution to be in Washington for every General Assembly.
Right.
But not knowing that the council and then bishops began to sift them out of the General Assembly to have better control over the General Assembly by having fewer members in there and telling them that if you don't have a credential, you're not required to be there. And then they started removing credentials
Wow.
from more of the elders to, again, combat the numbers of individuals that's required to be there. But as a requirement, you had absolutely zero financial assistance to come from across the country to a meeting that they mandated. It was mandatory for you to be in.
Well, no, I did have assistance.
Okay.
$300. The cap was $500.
Ooh.
Which was not enough for anything.
To come from California to D.C.
And stay in a hotel from Wednesday night until Sunday. In D.C. Memorial Day weekend. Come on now.
The hotels are now, what, around $200 a night?
A night.
Yeah.
If you find a good deal.
And were you aware of what I put out? I had shared with everyone that the the hotel coalition, they're not really working on behalf of the people. The hotel room rates, I negotiated a contract with a brand new hotel chain that as members of the House of Prayer, you would get anywhere from 35 to 45%. If you were there with a group, you'd get 35% discount. If you were there as a guest, your rate would be a 45% discount. Brand new rooms, 2 rooms you'd get as a suite with a kitchenette. And I put up St. Patricia for a whole week in that hotel.
Wow.
Gave her chauffeuring. The staff was at her beck and call. Whatever she needed, they would take care of it, no questions asked. And there's nothing that she could require that would be too much for them. The hospitality of that chain was off the chart. And at the time, I was asking, what in the world is wrong to where we in this huge organization nationwide and been here for over 100 years, and as much travel as we do, we can't get a discount? We're paying regular room rates. Come to find out, every single room that the members acquire through the Hotel Coalition, every dollar that they spend goes towards the bishop's award points for that hotel, for him to use as discount flights and all that stuff for his travel.
Wow, that's horrible.
Right.
Because I always knew, like, okay, yeah, the coalition has hotels, but it wasn't any discount that you were going to get. It's just kind of like they're going to expect you to call and fill up a room. That's all. It would, you go into a hotel that you pick off from what the coalition says is available. Don't
Right.
expect no discount.
Right. No discount at all.
No, you're just going to expect a room, pretty hope for, and being a pastor, I know well in advance. So my wife at the time, she would make sure, she took care of it well in advance. So I would always, most of the time I have room. Actually, sometimes I didn't, and I would have to stay in the dorm, which I preferred myself because I would be right there at the house of prayer.
Right.
And I preferred it at first until I actually did it. But when I actually did it, I saw the guys that I looked up to as councilmen and leaders.
Yeah.
Let their hair down when they get in that room. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like staying with Barron Boys.
Oh gosh. You want to expound on that?
I can't. I'm sorry. I wish I could, but I can't. I can't. That would be what do you call it? Degradation of character. Honestly. And I know that that's not the point of our,
right.
these efforts.
And
well, I wish I could, but
oh no, it's all good.
It's all barbecue today. I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, it's all good. I've shared some. I didn't share a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, people think that I'm telling a lot of stuff. There's so much that I haven't shared.
Oh.
And they know it. They know it, and that's why they're not they're not saying my name at all. But with that in mind, what was it that began to lean you more and more towards perhaps letting go of your affiliation, your participation, and attendance in House of Prayer?
I think the first thing that I felt as like a slap in the face, although other things had already happened, but the biggest thing at that time was, remember, what do you call it? The announcement was optional to go to. But
right.
when Bailey became the bishop, he said, you better show up at the announcement or you might be replaced and you won't even know that you're replaced.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'm way out here in Sacramento, California. So either I'm going to travel somewhere in convocation or don't do convocation at all so I could be back here for the announcement.
Right.
And that was just like the biggest unfair thing. It was so unfair. It was horrible. And and that was like the nail in
nail in the coffin.
Nail in the coffin, the cherry on top of it. It was just like that was the thing that was like, oh, hold on. And then I just feel like so many other things were happening that I'm like, I gotta love myself. If I don't feel love from nobody else, if I don't feel love, and the bishop, to me, he was the man of God. He was the representative of Christ. I got to feel love from him. I always felt love from Madison.
Yeah.
But Bailey, I didn't dislike him or anything, but I just did not feel love for him. I just felt authority from him.
Yeah.
And so I just like, I did. And then, even before Bailey's day, kind of at the end of Madison's day, there was somebody with big shoes in my ear about, hey, there's a time coming and we need somebody to speak up on certain things and we need people to do this and we need people to, you on board? No, yeah, I'm on board. But at the same time, I'm like, why are y'all doing this covert stuff? What's really going on? Like, I don't want to be a part of this.
Right. Only to find out later that everything is covert.
Yeah. Yes. It was worse than I knew. It would be only because I had blinders on. I didn't want to see stuff.
Right. Right. I had no idea until all those years, let me see, back in 2012. It was 31, right at 31 years or so. I didn't know this stuff was going on either. I just didn't see it. Everything I saw was holy, upright, Bible.
Right.
This is the word, and I'm just in this. And, these are all holy men of God.
Right. Oh my goodness. The reality of that.
Whew. And then, were you still there when he made Charlotte mandatory at the end of convocation? You had to be there also that Monday for council, every pastor.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, announcement weekend, SDC.
Oh yeah. Not announcement.
Right.
Judgment Day.
Yeah.
That's all I was trying to think of the name.
Yes.
Judgment Day.
And by that, on Mondays in Charlotte, what we're talking about is the first weekend of October. We have 12 weekends where the members from around the organization, they normally get on the road to travel, and they go to the city that the convocation stop is scheduled to be in, to enjoy services for that weekend. That's where the honored guest is going to be the leader of the organization. And so it starts off with New York, New York. It goes on to New Bedford, Massachusetts. I'm sorry, Buffalo, New York, New Bedford, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., Newport News, Greensboro, Columbia, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, and then Charlotte. From Buffalo, New York to Charlotte is 12 weeks. The last weekend in Charlotte, after that is over, that Monday, they have what we call court. And people refer to it as Judgment Day because every pastor of the organization, it is there where it's going to be determined whether or not they're going to remain where they are, or if there's going to be a change, and then they're removed as a pastor or transferred somewhere else, which I never really understood it. I've always said I would never like to be in that position because I've seen men go from up north, East Coast, 2 years later, they got to pick up, move out somewhere Midwest, 4, 5, 6, 7 states away. Might be there 1 year, then they got to go somewhere down south. Might be there for 4 years, then they got to go pick up and go. The amount of turmoil that those men were being put through and their families, it's no wonder that a lot of their families broke apart, their children, all kinds of problems, their marriages, all kinds of problems. And then that's just the surface, because underneath the stress levels, how many pastors are you aware of that was dealing with strokes and heart attacks and nervous conditions?
I can't even put a name or a number on it, but that was a usual thing.
Yeah.
It was the usual thing. And you know what else you had to deal with as a pastor? And that is, let's say you were ambitious, and I was ambitious, but I had a plan that I didn't have to worry about because ain't nobody comes to the West Coast.
Right.
But if you were ambitious and you were on the East Coast and you wanted to, take another step, and your name was called or your house was called early, and you say, okay, I want to let go of that position. I want to let go of that house because you wanted to get into something different. And as they go through, you don't get no house. So Sunday, you were a pastor. Tuesday, you're not a pastor no more.
Right.
Anywhere.
Right.
A lot of men had to deal with that.
But on the West Coast, nothing to worry about.
No, because
nobody
want to go out there.
Because they know everything, for the most part, is taking place on the East Coast. D.C.,
Right.
North Carolina, Charlotte. Other than that, your other major spots might be Newport News, because it's just the vicinity, close to D.C. For those who disagree, we even had 1 year where Memorial Day was held in Newport News.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So those are your three. All of them within 6 hours of one another, Charlotte to DC. To go out the West Coast, Midwest, you know you're going to have to be back and forth, back and forth, back. And no one has that money to put up for that travel.
Right.
Plane ticket is one thing by itself. And you heard him talking about how his wife would schedule the trips early to take advantage of the lower airfares, right? Because the closer you get to that departure time, the higher that fare is going to go up, right? But that's nothing because you're still going to have to look at hotel fee, and then you got to look at food. Food is another one. I remember you shared with us on occasion, you was there for a weekend, and you headed back after one night from DC.
I was there for a weekend. I headed back after one night.
You were there for Memorial Day weekend at the council or General Assembly, but you went back after one night or 2 days. That was when.
No. Whenever I went for Memorial Day, I would always try to go on Wednesday because that's when the council met, was on Wednesday.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes, most of the time, I couldn't make it on Wednesday, so I have to, go on Thursday, Friday. But immediately, and this wasn't one time, this was every time. Immediately after Memorial Day service that Sunday, especially when we was in the convention center, I would go from service, I run back up to House Prayer, get my bag, which was already packed, go back to the convention center, go downstairs to the subway, get on the subway to the airport in my suit. That was every year.
And what was that 1 year where you came across the bus station?
Oh, that's because I couldn't afford a hotel, so I just had to roam the streets of DC and to take a nap. First I would go to a hotel and just sit in the lobby, and they kept kicking me out. So I was just roaming the streets of DC, pulling my garment bag, and I went to the bus station it wasn't even in Northwest. I had walked so much, I was on the other side of town, maybe Northeast or something like that.
Wow.
But I stopped in the bus station. I was just sitting on one of those benches in the bus station until sunrise, until I could go somewhere and get in the hotel. I couldn't afford to stay in a hotel my first night there.
And see, I didn't know that is pretty common as well. Several pastors had situations like this. Some who drove, you see them, getting out of their cars in the morning, stretching, going to the restroom to freshen up, brush their teeth or what have you. But, you just don't know until you know. And I remember passing by several, good morning, how you doing, and da-da-da, and felt horrible when I found out because they're in their cars all night. And
I remember that used to happen in Colombia. People come down to Colombia. I didn't realize the situation that they had to be in to be dealing with that. But I was active I became an elder when I was 17 years old. So I was active when we moved back to Colombia after my father retired. I wanted to be there from day one. There was different things we had, need to be done. Cleaning the house of prayer, cleaning up the grounds, everything.
The whole
week.
So
I would get there early, and there would be so many men sleeping in their cars, getting up just like you said, not stretching. Hey, where the cup of coffee at? Whatever. Every day of convocation.
Come to find out, many of them, pastors and even councilmen, and I didn't realize that some of the council, the ones who had money, today it's not a big secret. Back then it was. We have several councilmen who have a lot of money. Some of them millionaires that you never know. And when I found out, how is it possible that we call each other brethren? that you got several men sleeping in their car. Now, we're not talking about Cadillacs. Everybody didn't have a Cadillac.
Right.
Some people
Right.
had a Yugo. You remember those Yugos?
Mm-hmm.
The Yugo.
Or a Datsun.
Oh gosh. The smallest go-kart looking car. Yeah, I loved my Datsun. I think I had a 240Z.
Oh, you had a nice one.
The bucket seats that lay, you don't have too much room to get comfortable. It's nice to ride
Right.
in, but to lay down for a whole night,
Right.
talk about lower back pain and neck pain and all kinds of other pains. But to not assist each other when you have it to help one another with.
Right.
But I didn't know that. Even in Philadelphia, the dormitories in Philly, this House of Prayer in South Philly, their dorms look like hotel rooms.
Wow.
Yeah, oh, they're very nice. And the biggest councilman got those rooms, $10 per night. And there's other councilmen who don't have money downstairs in the cafeteria, sleep with their head down on the table,
On the table.
right? Waiting for, with their suitcases beside them, waiting for some of the members of the state, for the chairman to try to get the pastors to talk to the members to take them into their homes.
Mm-hmm.
It's to see the level of ignorance, and by that I don't mean lack of knowledge. I mean ignoring one another's need, and you have millions of dollars in the bank.
Right.
It's unfathomable to me. I couldn't. But at any rate,
It used to be so common that the nickname on house bread, which could never be now because you can't get caught sleeping in house bread,
right.
used to be, what was it, Jericho Hotel, or what do we call it? Something
Jericho.
like that.
Yeah, I remember that one. I don't remember any others, but I was one of them because remember we used to walk.
Right. To
And-
convocation.
Yeah, and
Wow.
we loved it because that was the missionary, the House of Prayer missionary experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're there, we'd be up, just talking and talking about the Spirit and about the goodness of the Lord. And you hear, that soft, subtle snoring in the background. And you see somebody sit up and they stretch and they yawn, and you're still talking. The lights are turned down. You're in the sanctuary, a little bit of light coming from the front. But, those memories, that's where the camaraderie was built.
Right.
And then going out to get quote unquote freshened up. You pick a stall in the bathroom.
In the bathroom. And this is back in the day, in the bathroom was nothing like they are now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Water, inch to 2 inches of water, especially baptism. Oh my gosh. Everybody's feet wet. And
Right.
you get something to sit on the floor so you can kind of stand on top of so that you can change your clothes. So your feet not soaking up all that water, whatever. But it's come a long way. Unfortunately, there's still no assistance to the members
Right.
at all for anything. Everything is still expected. You come out of your pocket for every
Right.
single thing.
And if you try to spend the night in the house prayer, they will kick you out. They don't care
That's right.
about whether or not you got somewhere to go.
That too changed under the former bishop, Bishop Bailey. Yeah. In fact, leading up to the last few years of Bishop Madison, that's when they started, flicking the lights for everybody to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And after that, it was just gusto, lack of concern, lack of care. We had homeless people. I remember there was a homeless member. While today's the one who's in the seat was the pastor at 601 M Street. We had someone who was homeless, who was a member, living out of their van. Their van was parked in front of 601 for 4.5 months.
He was from Charlotte.
I believe so.
Yeah, I know
Had a
what you're talking
blue and
about.
white van.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a Volkswagen. Um, and he had written and written and written and gotten in touch, but nothing, nothing. Now you're in front of the,
And he
the,
was an elder.
uh, I believe so. I can't remember his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But
I know it. I just don't. I ain't gonna say it on here though. But
yeah,
when we get off, I'll tell you.
yeah. And I remember when he was given an apartment. He caught the bishop. He was going out the door one occasion, and he caught him. And when he talked to him, he said, how long? And when he told him, he got somebody's attention. He said, you make sure you get him an apartment. Made no sense. He's out here and da 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 da. You know the whole pitch. But I think it was 2 to 3 weeks later, he got an apartment there in Canaan land. Now, mind you, I said that to say this: the type of love that we show each other. We got all these apartments, and some of them were empty.
Mm.
And here's a member living out of a van parked in front of the headquarters.
Hmm.
And you are on the street where we have property right across the street, that whole half of that whole
Next
block.
door to the house, bro.
Right next door, beside the block on adjacent, right there by the convention center, that whole block apartments. And even if not apartment, how many members walking by you every single day,
Mm-hmm.
including the pastor going in and out? You know, but these are the types of things that I would wonder about. Um, what was it that you were saying that caused you to throw in the towel?
It's a culmination of things, but the big slap in my face was the Judgment Day thing. You must go to Judgment Day, or you might not be a pastor no more.
Right. Okay. Just to have that looming over your head was an issue.
Yeah, that and the fact that I was always a studier. I always studied because I felt like I didn't know it deep enough, so I just kept studying it, and then I started to realize that I think I need to know it deep enough, but the reality is most of the guys around me, they're very shallow, but they just make it like flamboyant or something.
Yeah.
And any great efforts that I was making, I feel like I was being punished for. Like they didn't want intelligence, and I just felt like I need to make myself more intelligent.
Yeah.
But I got to the point that I felt like they didn't want any intelligence. They don't want anything different. Keep everything the same and simplify.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted, I have a principle about myself. I can't adjust it or anything. I don't like people who are not about nothing to be around me, and I don't like to be around them.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very unsafe, because if somebody's not about nothing, they will put themselves and you at risk of danger. So I don't like that around me. And then I just kind of started realizing that you're surrounded by these people. They're not about nothing but this house of prayer, and they will do anything for it, even wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that either. That last part that you just said, until again recently, when I was told, you know, some of the things was going on, I was getting angry at people for even suggesting that it's even a possibility. And I had to suck up, you know, those words when I refuted what people were saying, because it turned out to be true. Especially to get, you know, on the club, on Addie's Club, or to get more G-Class awards. It's crazy. It started off bad, but today, it's crazy today. at that time, and by people who's not about anything, am I correct to assume that what you mean is people who's not doing anything to pursue anything for themselves to get themselves in a better intellectual position or position of knowledge when it comes to the word, or position of something even when it comes to job or education or for yourself and for your family? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been out of prayer since I think 2010, but I don't allow that around me now. It's I can't. I tell myself you need to not be so like it's judgmental, but I'm not being judgmental. I'm just keeping myself and my loved ones safe. That's what I really feel. Because when people ain't about trying to improve their situation or their life or anything about themselves, they're very dangerous.
Yeah.
They're very dangerous people. So yeah,
And birds of a feather.
they flock together. That's a fact.
And before long, you're no longer moving or trying to make any strides to get ahead. You find yourself complacent and just content with where you are, as long as you got what you need going on in the house of prayer, whether it's a band member, whether it's an elder with his title, sitting there, running services during the week, might be a Monday night speaker, but that's all you have
Just
going.
complacent.
Yeah. That hit me when I understood the need to keep what you just said, everything the same. Whenever you have ideas, programs that you're trying to push forward, anything you're trying to do to bring in members or have something to bring some life or energy into a service, is kind of looked down on. I remember even here when I came back in 18, after me and my wife had gotten situated with the congregation that we were in, I had written up some flyers. And I asked the pastor, what do you think about me going out to bring people in? I was going to pack the house. So I've written up some flyers to get a Bible study started. And I showed him flyer. Let's hold off. Let's hold off on that. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. It was the strangest thing. I could not understand why. Now it hits me, and I believe it revolves around the point that you're making. I think, however, and let me know if you agree, that they get nervous when there's people who walk in that door that may be educated.
Yes. Because those people can try you just in a conversation, and you don't want nobody to see that conversation.
Right. I've seen them become intimidated. Again, something else that didn't make sense to me, the fact that we're doing everything still by pen and paper, pencil and paper. To not have technology to be used for anything screams volumes when it comes to what it is that people are up to. And those minds, we're talking about dinosaurs living in, or imagine the Flintstones being introduced on the set of the Jetsons. This is what we're dealing with. The Jetsons are flying around in cars flying through the air. Like, what are you going to do if you're Fred and your car is by pushing with your feet on the road?
Right.
You don't have tires. You got rocks that's been sculpted.
To circles, right?
Right. And this is where we are. And it's so unbelievable because, as you're saying, to try to interject ideas and put things forward, let's modify this a little bit. Let's do that. No. We don't want to, because it just shows the level of fear in these men.
Right.
And now it seems as if it's literally being pushed into the hands, that mentality of the younger generation that's coming up. Same thing. You know, you'd be surprised at the men with all this technology, but yet they're still right there. And other younger people coming up under them, you know, why don't we do this? No, 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 we can't, we can't, we can't.
Mm.
Well,
Even when it comes to the finances, before I realized how bad it was, and even after I left, I would tell people, why don't we accept digital finance? If the House of Prayer would accept digital finance, it would get so much more money because people don't like to carry around cash. And the whole trick with check writing, it's easy with check writing. All you got to do is write a number on paper, turn that paper in. Well, digital is even easier. All you got to do is get your phone, write in a number, have an account, send that money to that account. Boy, your auxiliary will be on top. Your house offering will be high. All that. No. We can't do none of that.
yeah, you know why?
I believe because once it's digital, it's automatically documented and it's easier for outside entities
Right.
to find that information out.
Right. To track every single dime and where it came from and where it went.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are just, little red flags all over the place. Do you see areas where the leader currently or formerly might have been monetizing the people's activity?
I've always assumed so with the CDs and stuff, the recordings. And that's a question that I asked members today. Like, they talk about how much the leader does. Really? Tell me something that the leader does for you, because I have a feeling you do way more for the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he prays for me. Do you pray for yourself? Yeah. Do you pray for him sometime? Maybe. Yeah. Does he know your name? No.
That's right.
You sure he's praying for you? You play on the band or you're on the choir. Don't y'all realize that y'all are the house? I have never been in a situation where the leader was there and the spirit was high without a band or choir there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not him, it's you, the people.
Right.
Y'all talents that he is getting credited for, and he is not even a part of it.
Right. Unless he's pointing.
Yeah, he points at this band or that band. And that even didn't start until Madison Day, because McCullough Day, the true bands would fight.
They take right off. Yeah. Invaders, Thunderbirds, Kings.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Bumblebees. And the biggest problem with that is, even though the CDs being sold, DVDs being sold, none of that, I was surprised to learn that none of that goes towards the bands for their instruments, their uniforms.
No,
Nothing towards the choirs for their robes, their travel, their hotel lodgings. All of this is out of the people's pocket.
Right.
And even for them to be told that they cannot play outside and
Right.
raise money that they would use for their expenses, and then to get fined.
You did.
Oh,
Yep.
gosh. One young man was fined $5,000.
Right. Huge fines. And it's like, either you're going to pay this huge amount, or you're just not going to play even in here at all.
Yeah. So we now have individuals who's like, okay, no problem, whatever. And they went outside and are doing extremely well. Not
My
doing
son
anything.
is one. I have to speak. I won't speak his name, but
Right.
my son is one. He plays professionally in LA, and he had a gig 2 weeks ago. Played for 1 hour, got paid a couple $100. Went the next day to play with the band at the House of Prayer. And because the leader was going to be there, the band told him he could not play. I said, son, hold your head up. They about to play and pay. You played yesterday and got paid.
Right.
Hold your head up. Don't let that bother you.
Right. And there's supposed to be something now where word has gotten out that the leader said if your hair is a certain length, you can't play, or the styles or what have you. I don't know all the details, but apparently it has not gone over well. For some individuals, you know, back in the day, who was that? George Jefferson, and was it Different Strokes and What's Happening? We had those short afros and medium length afros. Today, individuals, if they wear their hair like that, it's a problem.
Wow.
There's an individual on, was it Roots? There's a band on one of the TV shows. And in fact, we have a band player, musician, who left because he couldn't play for whatever reason. I think this was also behind being fined for playing outside a few $1,000s. He says, no, I'm not going to pay that. And so he said, no big deal. But he's now playing for one of the talk shows at night. I think it's for the Tonight Show, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Gigs all over the place, getting paid very well, and some of our other musicians. Same thing with singers. So I think they do a very poor job of allowing the members to understand the need that they have for them in the intent to control and to have control over everything. That micromanagement type styled leadership is doing a whole lot more harm than good.
That's right.
What about the we talked a little bit about the size of the organization's membership.
And you know what? In your last video, 64.3, you said less than 10,000. There will be so many, especially active members, that will argue with me. But it's like, come on, y'all. Pay attention to your surroundings.
Yeah.
Saying 10,000 was extremely generous.
That's what I thought.
10,000 means that every congregation, on average, has about 100 members. And y'all know the truth. But I mean, any house that I attend, that I have attended, first of all, there are only 12, I believe, mother houses. Like I said, I ain't been involved in Osprey since about 2010, so I don't know if anything else.
Well, no, let's go over it. That's a good point,
Yeah.
because I didn't think about that. That's why I love these conversations. But what is it? Miami, Augusta.
Yeah, I'm thinking LA, Miami, number one.
Augusta,
Savannah.
Okay.
Columbia.
Columbia. Oh, you coming up from down south? Charlotte. Right.
Greensboro.
That's a mother house.
I don't know. I assume so because they call the pastor a king.
Okay, that's right. They split the district. They call them the Northern District now. Okay, so let's go with that. So Greensboro, California, Miami, Augusta, Savannah, Columbia, that's 5. Greensboro, 6. Charlotte, 7.
In Maryland, was it Baltimore?
Well, yeah, it's 2 houses there, though. Between them, it's East and West.
West Baltimore, I think, is Chairman House.
Right.
Or, the mother house.
Well, we forgot Newport News.
Right.
And then that would be 601 Elm Street, the mother house there. And then Philly, South Philly, that's 10. New York, and then Buffalo. Yeah, so you're right, 12.
Still 12, 12. So Now, I know anytime I've attended a mother house, maybe on a good Sunday, Easter Sunday or something, there may be 200 people there. But
Okay.
on a regular Sunday, maybe 50, 75 people there.
In Columbia.
Well, I've attended Columbia, Augusta, LA, DC. Though, basically, I think all my life, those are the only mother houses that I've ever attended.
Okay.
And so I'm looking at all of them together. You know, what would you say the numbers would be?
Oh, wow. I thought, again, being generous with all the mother houses, I'm thinking that 2,000 is, way generous. DC right now.
Not adding them together, not cumulative, individually.
Individually, I wouldn't even say 200. Buffalo might be down maybe around 80. And that's on active members coming every once in a while, every few weeks. On average, coming every week, they might have maybe 40. Mother House, let me see, that's Buffalo. LA, they might be dealing with a good, maybe coming out often, maybe 60, 70 people. And I'm being generous.
For LA.
I'm being generous.
Very
Yeah.
extremely generous.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Even being generous, the numbers don't add up.
Right. Right.
DC, they're only going, their membership is predominantly as a result of the ushers and the choirs. And so they're constantly competing with other houses because of that. But when you talk about coming out and attending, you don't even have the attendance. They're on there, they show up for events. But attending, I've been out to, well, I can't say now, but at times when I was there during the week, you might have 20 people sitting in the congregation during the week. On Sunday, you might have maybe 80.
Right.
Maybe. And that was back then. Now, maybe 50, and that's, if they have a program, you're going to have people coming from all over. But that's not a reflection of that congregation. That's members from Charlotte Mission, Marshall Heights. I mean, Marshall Heights is now down to maybe 10 members.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. 8th Street, they've never, after, Mr. Cunningham, when he was the pastor at 8th Street, before he got there, they were dealing with maybe 50 people. After he left, they've always struggled with right around, if I'm not mistaken, 25-ish to 40-ish. But they have numbers. And so the dollar bills don't reflect the congregations because a lot of them are getting money from other members, from other houses. Some of them was getting money from the bishops and their wives.
Right. And you know what? There is a scam.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh. In the house of prayer.
Yeah.
All these people selling tickets, make sure they follow through with the prize. Because there's some people that just sell tickets.
Oh.
They'll sell you a ticket. We got a TV, we got a laptop, we got...
And no one never knows who the winner was.
Right. Because there ain't no winner. That's just a G-class report.
Yeah. That is so messed up. Oh, wow. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
But it's true. And again, with Buffalo, Miami, I can't see them having 100 people.
No.
Nowhere near. But collectively, even giving them 100 each, you're talking about 1,200 people. And, that accounts for, some of the houses. Charlotte might have more than 100. DC might have more than 100.
Right.
Augusta, it's up in the air. Savannah's up in the air. As far as actively participating members.
And And those mother houses, when their numbers are up, it's because the numbers in the missions close to them are down.
Yeah.
Not because the community, more people from the community have joined. It's just other people want to have a band or something like that.
Right. And even when it comes to Philadelphia, the mother house there, South Philly, they've been struggling for many years. They don't have maybe 40, 50 people.
Okay.
Philadelphia's activity is around North Philly. And they're only, pushing their band, the Rockets, and the kitchen. North Philly's kitchen is what predominantly pushes the sales. Their kitchen is so good that even the pastor there, Mr. Commodore, I remember getting angry one time because he turned the chapel downstairs where they normally hold services during the week. That became a storage room for the kitchen.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And now, mind you, he was the governing attorney for, I think, the evangelist, Pastor Arbirth at the time. And him and Mr. Taylor, who's there at 601, they asked for a $10,000 fine for him because he was present to marry his granddaughter at the wedding.
Oh, when something was put over the throne or something like that?
All they did was roped up. They put a rope up and they put white sheets hanging on a rope across the front of the mountain so that the pictures on the wall could not be seen, so that the bride could take bridal portraits. It was nothing against anything. They just didn't want the background to be, pictures. For people who's looking at the bridal portraits, they're not going to know that they're inside of the house of prayer, because you just see this white backdrop, right? That's all it was about. They brought him into council and requested a $10,000 fine because he did not see to it that they took those sheets down. Now, mind you, when I got there to North Philly and I saw right down there in the chapel, guess what was hanging up in front of the mountain for you to pull back and to see the boxes and the canned green beans and corn and all that stuff sitting up on the mountain. White sheets hanging across the road like, you're drying clothes or something on a clothesline.
Wow.
Now, when I thought about that, of course, it's straight up hypocrisy. But for what he did at a wedding, that's going to be there, 30 minutes, an hour? You're talking about something that is up consistently, and you've done 1,000 times worse because you converted the chapel into a storage room for the kitchen. I mean, it's just, I was livid when I saw it. Can't report it to anyone because they cover each other's back. But have you noticed or seen any House of Prayer activities for non-supporters?
What do you mean?
Is there anything that a non-supporter of either the leader or of the House of Prayer might be involved in or could get engaged in just to participate or enjoy fellowshipping in the name of...
Are you serious? No.
Right.
They don't do nothing. As a matter of fact, putting those the two things together that we were just talking about, my auntie recently died. My family is rooted in the House of Prayer. We support all over mainly the East Coast, but a couple on the West Coast as well. And she was one of the original people to start the day kitchen in Columbia. There were 4 original people. 2 of them being passed. One passed in the 90s, one passed in the 2000s. She's the 3rd, and the pastor is the 4th. He's the only one alive. She passed, and she's very well known for her cooking and how much she support that kitchen. They started that day kitchen in probably about 95, 96. And it has been going ever since. Mm-hmm. She has been supporting it all the time. Very well known for her cooking. Even during her homegoing service, when people got up to make comments, they would make comments about her cooking, but not only about her cooking, about the fact that if she saw somebody hungry And if they didn't have money, she would find a way to feed them. If the kitchen had run out of food, but somebody still wanted some food, she would find a way. She would even go home, because she's staying across the street in the apartment,
Oh,
get
wow.
food, bring it, cook it up to feed the people. But the thing that hits my heart, and it hit some of my family members' heart, but I'm hoping they hit hard enough for them to realize, pay attention to this. Her homegoing service, she passed, and the pastor didn't even close down the day kitchen for that day. So you had the repass in the house, at the house of prayer. But either you could eat the repass food, which was actually cold, like it was made the day before or something.
Oh, wow.
Or you could go to the day kitchen and buy some food.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
man,
Yeah.
you got to pay attention to things like that. They don't
Yeah.
seem like nothing. Oh, he got to get that G. That's what he wants. Okay, I hear you.
Right.
But what does that really say?
Right. Right. There's just no respect to community, to the members, anyone at any given time, when your only concern is about acquiring more money for the organization to make you look good.
Right. It's not even for the organization. It's for your position.
Right. As the pastor.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-mm. And the thing is, well, let me just ask this as well. Have you seen anything at all set up in all of your years in the house of prayer geared towards outreach?
Yeah, of course I have, because I set them up. I remember when I was in college back in the 90s, I was going to Benedict. I set up a tutorial program, 6 o'clock. Kids from the community, because there are several schools in the community around the house of prayer in Columbia. Kids from the community could bring your homework, bring a book, anything. Come on down to the house of prayer and be tutored. I set that up. I was a part of AmeriCorps, and I was trying to set the house of prayer up as an AmeriCorps site.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the 90s. And do you know, so sometimes the kids will be there from 6 to like 8:30.
Wow.
Do you know at 8:25, someone would come into the room where we would be to collect the offering for these kids?
I was about to say, that sounds like exactly what they would do.
Yeah. I also set it up to where the schools, sometimes they have programs, and they didn't necessarily want to do the program at the school because it would be for a select audience of students. And if you do it at the school, then it could cause an uproar or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would set it up at the house of prayer. Students would be rewarded, different things, I don't know, whatever it was. We would do it at the house of prayer. They would even eat at the house of prayer, and they would have good food. But then the people wanted to know, how much are they paying us for that? And where's this money going? Like, wow.
Mm-mm.
Just do something for the community just to do it. And then I could go into my whole time of pastoring. That's what my whole pastoralship was about, was outreach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't you...
I never saw it.
Yeah. Same thing.
No, there's a sister in San Francisco. She would always put on, she would try her best to put on, carnivals at the house of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And, she would put them on and they would be successful, but they could be more successful if the membership and the leadership in the house of prayer was more for it. And that's the thing that always made me question, why aren't you guys more into this? This is something that could potentially get you more parishioners. And for me, when I pastored, my members would have to tell me, Pastor, need to open up the house for new joiners. That was never me.
Yeah.
Because I always felt like this. People will come to the house of prayer. They will be faithful. They'll be ready to put their energies in, their elbows to it until they join. When they join, that was it. You won't see them no more. So I would rather no, I ain't worried about getting a bunch of names on the
list.
roll.
Yeah.
I want the actual person here.
Right. Right. Because what happens is right after they join, and we're talking about predominantly throughout the organization, after a member's name is added to the list, that's when, they say the wolves come out the woods to see what auxiliary you're going to work on. And the reason why they get all that activity, what club you want to work on, because work on a club means giving finance.
Right.
And
right.
all those clubs are in financial competition with one another. And what they're looking at, when the person walks through that door, I've seen many of the members, as well as, by members I mean officers on the various clubs, and the pastors, you could almost hear them, while they look at those people walk through the door, cha-ching.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's all they see, dollar signs. And unfortunately, if it's not a member trying to do something because of what they believe in, what we were told. They want to do something to help the Lord. They want to do something to help the organization. They want to do something to help the congregation, the pastor. And they know there's people out here looking for the Lord, so they want to turn and steer their direction into the place where we believe God is, right? But it's the people, and their efforts, but there's no program, no initiative by the organization as a whole.
None. There are individuals that put on things, but those individuals, it's not a national thing. It's just an individual thing.
Same. What do you think about nothing geared towards Bible study throughout the organization?
It's actually not even nothing. It's negative. Because if you go to put on a Bible study,
right.
They will try to strike that from you. No, we don't need no Bible study. We got Sunday school. That's not Bible study, dude.
Yeah, indoctrination
Nobody's
class.
learning the Bible from the Sunday school.
Right. That's where they, do the most indoctrination of anyone coming in. Now, do you think anybody has anything to compare the House of Prayer to, that have been in the House of Prayer for all these years, in the event that they leave?
I don't understand the question.
What life might be like for a person in the House of Prayer if they decided to no longer attend and participate?
Before I left, I knew people that would leave, and if you leave, to me, it's a church. People leave churches all the time. They go to a different church. So I wish you were here, but that don't change our relationship. And they would say, "Oh, my life is so much better." I was like, "Oh, they just saying that."
Yeah.
But then once I stopped going, I realized that for myself. Like, I didn't feel stressed out all the time.
Yeah.
I had a little money in my pocket, a bunch of stuff. And then I started realizing other people were leaving, and they were having the same testimony. And I was like, yeah, you stopped paying tithes, And according to what we are taught in the House of Prayer, you were going to be cursed for stopping doing that. And there's a scripture in the Old Testament that says, "Ye are too superstitious." It wasn't about tithes,
right.
But it was, I don't even recall what it was about. But I know it wasn't about tithes or anything like that. But I always think of that. You are too superstitious. That was told to the people. I think it was actually a sign that was made. You are too superstitious. And when it comes to tithes, that's what it was for me. You are too superstitious. Stop paying tithes and stop thinking that you are cursed. That's the only curse. You think you're cursed. But the whole thing hasn't even just been having more money because I didn't pay tithes. It's been life.
Mm-hmm.
It's more fruitful. Life is just beautiful. And you realize that people are beautiful.
Right.
There's some wonderful people in the world. As a matter of fact, I had gone many years with a suspended license, many years, just because I didn't take care of my finances.
Right.
And after I stopped with the house of prayer, maybe 3 years later, this man had come to me and say, "What do you need to get your license?" I was, man, I'll probably never get a license again because it's over $1,000 and I have to go through this. He said, "I'm gonna come pick you up on Monday and we're gonna go take care of your license." I was like, "What?" Monday, this man came to my house, picked me up, took me to the. We had to go. What's the name of that place? Western Union.
Uh-huh.
And Western Union, the money, it was like $1,700. Western Union, that money, this man took it out of his pocket, paid the Western Union fee, and then I called to the, I think the tax place or something like that, and it's like, okay, I paid the money, what do I do now? Okay, well, we got to wait till we receive it and document it, so that could be a few weeks. I'm like, what? And so the man says to me, well, let's just go to DMV to let them know what we've already done, find out what we got to do next, you know. And I was like, okay. Drove me to DMV. We get up there. They said, oh, Mr. Perry, well, it's going to be a couple of weeks, but hold on, go have a seat for a minute. I went and sat down. Then they called me back up. Mr. Perry, I don't know what happened, how it worked out, but here's your license.
Yeah.
What? And then, after about a month, I went back to this man with just $100, and I handed it to him. He said, what's this for? I said, I can't pay the whole thing, but this is towards me paying you back. He said, oh, no, you can't pay that back to me. I did that for my reasons. There are wonderful people, and there are other occasions that I've experienced like that. There are wonderful people in the world, but we have been, a part of our indoctrination is that we are the best people in the world, and the best people of the world are less than us.
Yeah.
I've been taught that since I was a kid. The worst of us is better than the best of the world.
Yeah.
That's how it was said to us.
Yeah, the worst member of the house of prayer is better than the best one outside.
You're right.
Oh my goodness, just the nonsense of it all.
You're right.
And hindsight is 20/20, but when we look back and realize just how indoctrinated we were, I know for myself, I look back and I was like, think of that song. I would look back and wonder how I got over. Because we was going through it, and if we can get another $100, forget the phone bill, light bill, rent, clothes, food, whatever. Got to make it up. Got to get that last. So all those screams and yells came from, Lord, you know what I went through to get this, and we're told that that's your faith being put to work. It's just so depleting. But would you agree that while we were there, along with those who are still there, have no picture or imagery that we can possibly draw up in our minds that would represent what freedom from all of this stress and being oppressed, what it would look like or feel like outside?
Oh man, absolutely agree. And that makes me feel, I feel bad for the people who are in it now.
Yeah.
Because I know, because I was one of them.
Yeah.
that I had no idea what freedom would be like. What is freedom? I thought that was free. You know, people. You know, I grew up in the middle of what they call a military brat. So I traveled the world. I have a lot of friends from different nations. You know, a lot of friends from elsewhere, and they would ask me like, "What do you do to enjoy your life? What do you do for fun?" They were supportive of me being a pastor, proud of me even. But then they saw how dedicated I was to it, and then, "What do you do for fun? What do you do to enjoy yourself?" This is what I do. The church, travel. You go to a city. You could go to New York every year for convocation. You ain't never went to see the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty. Go to L.A. And this is my testimony. Even to this day, all the years I have been going to L.A., I've never been to Hollywood. I have never been to the Walk of Stars. You know, just all of the stuff that it's known for. I know Vernon Avenue. I know West Adams Boulevard and Figueroa because it's right there.
Yeah.
It's we just go. We try to or the house of prayer. Portland is a small house of prayer, but Portland is a beautiful city with a river running right through the middle of the city. So many beautiful on the river. So many. I think it's 7 bridges, and then Mount Hood. I had a class that I took at Portland State where they gave me 6 credits for 2 weeks. All I had to do was go camping in Mount Hood for 2 weeks, and they gave me 6 credits. At first, I was like, "No, wait, we don't do that. That's how you get eaten by bears."
Exactly.
Then I went camping, and I fell in love with it. Man, I love camping to this day.
Wow.
But my point is, people in there are so indoctrinated, but it's more than that. We just think that that's all the greatness. You know, as Cunningham always saw, there's great joy. Well, you know what? Inside these walls of this building that men made that have nothing to do with holiness is one thing. But you can go outside these walls and see what the Most High made for us and experience a much greater joy. But you don't realize that it's joy because there's not a beat behind it.
Yeah.
There's not horns behind it. You know?
And see, it wasn't all that joyful for him until he became the one sitting in the chair. Because there was plenty of times when lights there where he was pastoring was about to get cut off. And there was text messages that went out for the members to give $50 a week a piece.
Oh my goodness.
And for the young people to give $25 in the youth department a piece.
Jesus.
And the grannies to give 10.
Wow.
The grannies to give $10. And you know the grannies ain't got no money. That's money coming out of them parents' pockets. But grannies were taxed.
Actually, it's the grandparents' pocket. Because the parents is dealing with their bills that I can't pay that bill. But the grandparents, you need to be blessed. So here's the $10, give to your baby. You know.
Right. Oh gosh. And so, you know, as a pastor, well, you know, I don't have to tell you, you know, you yell with the people when you hear he's coming, yay! But you know, most pastors don't mean that. They know that there's a headache that's coming with the.
Right, they're like, really? They're like, oh my goodness.
Right. You know, can't wait for him to leave.
Right.
Because of the pressure and the stress of, you know, you got to push, you got to make this, you got to make it happen, get the money, and then you're left with all the trash and the potato chip bags and the soda bottle cans.
Everybody go home. Oh, we had a good time. Well, look what you left.
Yeah.
And now I got to deal with this.
Yeah. The people of God and trash God's house.
Right. Right. Oh, my goodness. I used to, back when Columbia, the house was across the street, 2421 Reed, after service, me and my dude Trey, we would sweep up the house of prayer. and there would literally be a mountain of trash. That's the only thing we would do was sweep.
Mm-hmm.
There would be a mountain of trash in the center aisle. Like a mountain, not just a little pile. No. It would be bigger than the pews of trash. Dirty diapers, cups, cans, plates.
You said higher than the back of the pews?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There would be a mountain of trash. People left all kinds of stuff.
The worst that I remember was finding chicken.
Yeah. Chicken bones. Yeah.
I said, really, y'all, in service? Yep.
That last butt piece of the hot dog.
I'm like,
just a little piece of the bun with a little bit of ketchup in it.
And you never see when they're eating it.
Right.
But after... Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And the superstitions, though. If I leave, I'll be cursed. God is going to be angry with me. If I don't do what he says, I'm not doing what God says. Where am I going to go to give what I owe God? All those are the statements that are the most common thoughts. Do you concur? Are those some of the things that you used to think or used to hear people say?
Oh, absolutely. Even worse than that, if I leave and then I get a cough, see that? You done conducted something because you left the house prayer. You don't have the protection on you. You leave, you get a headache.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
People be clinging and holding on to their necklaces or their G-class pins or their awards and
doing silly stuff like drinking. You concerned about your cholesterol, but you gonna drink some olive oil.
Oh my gosh, it's just it's insane when you see, and it's not just it's not picking at the members. Again, I say all the time that I was one of them. Over 40 years, I was the most adamant house of prayer. I mean, house of prayer in my blood. We be in a restaurant, and I'm caught up on the sidewalk, and I'm teaching. No matter where I'm at, you're gonna learn about the word today, and you're gonna see this man. You're gonna see him for who he is.
Yeah. And let me tell you, I'm a witness that you are telling the truth, that you were like that. I remember those days.
Oh, gosh.
But I wanted to be more like that myself, because you were a soldier for the Lord. It's like you didn't care who was around or anything. You're going to do what you felt convicted in your heart to do. You might be the only person on the floor shouting, and ain't no music going on. But you shouting like the band is 10 hours up.
I remember one of the bands, they started playing, they didn't have a drum, and they used my feet to keep time. But when I look back, people, they made comments of you, was all that fake that you was doing? I remember you used to shout all over the place, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't fake. I was indoctrinated. And, I meant then what I meant, that this is for the Lord. And the Lord's servant, I'm representing God through him, period. That's what I knew. Now I know better. And then individuals ask another question. Well, what about all those healings, or what about the things that you did when you called on his name? Well, it's as simple as this. My faith in God and the Lord's ability to do whatever it is that I was calling on is what got those things done. It was not my belief in that man, and it wasn't any power in that man that got done what I needed done. Whether it was me looking to hold back rain because it started raining. There's been several times when, at my request, the rain would stop. And it was.
I have that same experience.
Yeah.
I used to work. I was assistant manager of a video store, and when I got off of work, I would walk to one of the saints' houses. She didn't live too far from the video store. So I walked to her house, And I would sit in her house. Me and her would be talking about the word, talking about house prayer history, stuff like that. But I would stay at her house until it was time to go to house prayer, so I could get a ride home from the house prayer. So I would leave her house about 7 o'clock and walk to the house prayer. One day it was pouring down raining. And I got up to head out the door, and she said, Ella Perry, what you gonna do? It's pouring down raining. I said, ain't a drop of rain gonna get on me. Why? What you say? It's pouring down. Yes, it is. I said, no, it ain't. I'm gonna close my hand, and as I close my hand, the Most High is gonna stop the rain.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna keep, as long as my hand is closed, the rain is not gonna be there. I walked from her house to the house of prayer without a drop of rain on me. When I got into the house of prayer, I slowly released my hand because it hurt. You know, it was hard to release. I slowly released my hand, and as my hand opened up, the rain started falling again.
Yes, sir.
And I told my son this when he said, I'm cool off the house, you know, when he was going, saying what he said. I told my son this: don't let that bother you. Understand that you have a relationship with the Most High.
Right.
It's not through anybody.
Right.
You have a relationship with the Most High, and the Most High is with you so long as you live a clean life. The Most High will be with you. If you have a problem, pray about it. You're going to be all right. Don't worry about nothing. Don't think that because you're not going to the house of prayer anymore, that things are going to happen to you. If something happens to you, I guarantee you, you look at what you did something to initiate it.
Right.
But live a clean life and realize that the Most High is still with you. But that, I've had other situations like that. You know, holding the rain. I remember one time when I went out to California to get married. I went to California in 97, June of 97, to ask for Madison's permission to marry my first wife.
Okay.
And my flight was out of Charlotte. So I had to get up to Charlotte. I had a ride. It was me and one other member from Columbia that was going to LA for June. So we had a ride. We had to wait for our ride to get off of work. So our ride got off of work and we were flying. We met at her job, the ride. We met at her job. So we flying. We get not even out of Columbia, and the flight was about to leave in 45 minutes. Now, this is before the whole 2-hour thing. The flight was about to leave about 45 minutes. And so our driver said, so y'all still want to go to Charlotte or what? Because y'all ain't going to make this flight. And we was like, no, we ain't going to make this flight. I said, yes, we are. The other person that was going to California with me, she had a cell phone. She was one of the rare people to have a cell phone in 97.
Back then,
But like today, everybody got a cell phone.
Right.
So I said, call the airline. And when you call the airline, ask them, you got to say it just like I'm saying it. And she called the airline. I said, ask them, is flight number 1234 still delayed? And she said it just like I said. Is flight number 1234 still delayed? The people said, yes, we don't know when it's going to take off. We don't know when we're going to be able to take off, but it is going to be delayed for a couple hours. It's like, all right, let's go. We're going to LA.
Yep. Yes, sir. And that's the thing. What you believe is what's going to be done.
That's right. Didn't Jesus tell that person, your faith has made you whole?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we did not have people teaching that to us. What we had was the indoctrination. Call, add, call, add, call, add. You know, and whatever you need, he can provide. He can, you know, even with the songs. Well, now I'm like, if I could do all that then while I was indoctrinated, well, why can't I do the same thing now? And that's why my teeth are sunk into this, to open up as many eyes as I possibly can, to turn as many people as I possibly can to the truth. Not away from the house of prayer, but to the truth. The house of prayer would be and can be a very, very great place of fellowship, just like many other places of fellowship. People think that I'm speaking against, quote unquote, the church. I'm never against the church. The church is a group and a body of people. It has nothing to do with a building. But when it comes to the buildings are nothing more than places where the believers can congregate in order to fellowship. There is no place of worship today. We can worship anywhere. You can worship in your car, on your way to work. You can worship
You
on
should worship
vacation.
everywhere.
Yes. But your body is the vessel. As he said, his Father seeketh such to worship him in spirit and in truth. But gathering together in groups, whether we're in our home, whether we're on a cruise, whether we're at the ski lodge, or whether we are at a designated facility where we're going to congregate, it is for the purpose of fellowshipping. Is it possible from time to time that you may end up worshiping together at that place? Absolutely. But it's not a place for worship of the Almighty God. And even if you build it for that purpose, that's fine. And you can call it a place of worship for your services. What you call it is fine, but it's not what God called it. It's not what the Word calls it. And it's certainly not accepted by God as his house or his designated place. So anybody at any given time walking with him in their faith and obedience to him, then you are exactly what the doctrine and what the gospel is talking about. You become that temple for his spirit to dwell inside of. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to say?
No, I don't think I was about to say anything. If I was, I forgot what it was.
But is that pretty much your sentiment, what it is that you share with others in your testimony or your teachings as well?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I have always taught and believed that house is synonymous with family. And that's how the Father's house can be a house of prayer for all people. Because my family is a family of prayer that anybody can be a part of. All people can be a part of. It's a family of prayer. And that it's when I was pastoring, like I said, I fell in love with camping. One weekend this is once Josh and his whole congregation, his whole congregation started, fellowshipping. I took them all camping. Camp Far West is actually in Lincoln, California. We went camping on Saturday and stayed till Sunday. When we went camping, it was so hot. Sacramento is a hot place, like Arizona hot. I don't know if people know that because it's California.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very hot in Sacramento. When we went camping, we went out in the lake just to stay cool on, Saturday till the sunset. After the sunset, we built a fire, had 8 o'clock prayer around the fire and all that. Then it was miserably hot. I remember one of the guys, his name was Van. He slept on the picnic table that was out there. It was too hot to sleep beside the tent, so he slept on the picnic table.
Oh my gosh!
And the next morning, Sunday morning, we all woke up, and immediately it was so hot, we all just went back into the lake. That was the only way to stay cool. And we didn't have no watches or nothing, and so we were out on the lake. No cell phones, no way to tell the time.
Right.
But nobody wanted to come inside or come out of the water because it was too hot. So we're in the lake, and then all of a sudden, clouds start forming. Well, when the clouds start forming, we got up, we started getting out of the lake. We get up there, Come to find out, it was 11 o'clock. It was time for
Wow.
service. So we had service right there around the campfire, singing, we raised offering and everything. Do you know, at the benediction, the clouds start going away.
Wow.
We went right back out into the lake and stayed for a while, but it was like, okay, we want to get back home.
Yeah.
So we ended up leaving. But the Most High gave us a cloudy canopy in the time that we believed was time for service.
Right.
And there were no walls.
Right.
It was fellowship. And the offering that we raised, I called back home to the assistant pastor, was running the service
To
at
report
the
it.
house of prayer. And we beat them.
Wow. And see, it was like that with us. We was on the Navy in the forecastle. There's a room called the forecastle where the chains are hooked up to the anchor drops. And so while we're in the forecastle, these chain links, as big as your body is, right?
Wow.
That's just the link, to hold the anchor to the ship. And we're out there, I think we was somewhere in right outside of Iran or Iraq. Anyway,
Wow.
we were holding our services, and there it gets 130 degrees in the shade,
Oh, my goodness.
and it was steamy hot in the forecastle. And so I said, don't worry about it, y'all. We'll be all right. Come on, let's go ahead and get started. You know, in 5 minutes time, it felt like an air-conditioned room. Those cool air that started blowing in through the portholes, you know, those holes inside the hull, the skin of the ship, where you can see out. Well, cool air started blowing in there and cooled off the entire forecastle. We're in there holding services, and people would come in, oh my gosh, how do y'all get air conditioning? Nowhere else on the ship is air conditioning. And as soon as we left, same thing, right back to the heat. But I'm sure you have many, many, many testimonies that you can share to how our belief and what it is that we request for the Lord to do on our behalf will do, and He does. And as the Word tells us, doubting nothing. And I tell people, when He told the disciples, grain the size of a mustard seed, you'll be able to speak to that mountain. He was not being figurative. He was not talking about a mountain in your life. No, He was looking at a very real mountain, just like He spoke to that tree the day before, and it died within the very next day. So if we can receive it, we'll be able to do the exact same things. And next time we talk, I'll be sure to put a plug in to share some more of these magnificent testimonies, because the people need to hear it. But more importantly, to know that those things that were done at those times while we were indoctrinated, same thing for anybody else around the world. You're indoctrinated and you believing in this man or that man and that one and this one. It has nothing to do with none of that. The only ones that people's faith in someone getting something done was His begotten Son. And even then, He was demonstrating for people to how to put their faith and trust in God. So that said, is there anything else you want to touch on or hit on before we close?
If I could share one more testimony.
Absolutely.
Support what you're just saying. This year, I got a phone call from a guy who was my assistant pastor. He joined the hospital in Sacramento. He heard that I left. And he asked me this year, he said, how could you leave? You were so strong in your faith and you believed so much that you made other people believe. He said, I remember one time, after we had got the building, we started having Bible study inside the building, because we got it before it was dedicated, a few years before. And I was paying rent at a community center to have services, but I got permission to set the building up makeshift and have services there, just, not make it very public. So I was having Bible study in the building, and the building had 4 large windows on the ceiling. This is a building that was built in, I think, 1901 or something like that, originally built, the old school. And it had huge skylights in the ceiling.
Okay.
And so it was raining in Sacramento. It was rain, and that was a rare thing because it didn't rain much in California.
Mm.
And it was raining in Sacramento so much that the ceiling was leaking. So we get to the house of prayer that night, and it's just pouring inside the house of prayer. The floor, it's a concrete floor, but the floor is just soaked.
Oh, boy.
And the guy, it was mainly men. Yeah, it was a men's Bible study I was running at the time.
Okay.
And so the men come in, and this guy who he wasn't even an elder at this time, but he was my assistant pastor. He was like, "What we gonna do? What we gonna do? We gonna go ahead with what we were doing. You know, we gonna keep on moving forward. God is gonna take care of that. That's His business.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna move forward." So we went on with the Bible study, had a great Bible study. And when we finished, as we were getting ready to leave, the floor was dry. The ceiling wasn't leaking over. And he said, "How did you know that?" I said, "It's God's business. And we're just here doing God's business." So he called me the other day. He said, "Man, you had so much faith. I remember that time. And by your faith, you stopped the rain." I told him, I said, "Listen, we were there for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We just move forward with the purpose and not worry about that other stuff. Even if it rained the whole time, even if there was no roof on the building, nothing would happen to us for having Bible study there.
Right.
There's no reason for us to stop. Just move forward with what the Most High has given you to do. And don't worry about the stuff you can't do nothing about." I couldn't fix that roof that night before we started Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do nothing but put some buckets down to try to help stop the water.
Right.
But the whole floor was dry and everything. And he was like,
Wow.
"Oh my God." I said, "Man, have faith.
Yeah.
But all you got to do is have faith." And I always go back to that scripture. I've been so far removed from pastoralship and all that stuff. I can't tell you exactly where that scripture is, but it's on my heart.
Right.
Jesus said, He didn't say, "I have healed you."
Right.
Jesus said, "Your faith
Made you whole.
has made you whole."
Uh-huh. Yeah. I tell people that there's different times when He did something and there's times when people did something. And we have to be able to differentiate between those times. And they said, "Well, how can you tell?" I said, "Well, if the individual came asking for something or looking for something, then you'll notice at times He told them what their faith did. But there's times where Jesus did something where the people didn't ask Him. And said, 'Well, what do you mean?' So, okay, well, what about the young man who they let him down through the roof, right? He said, 'Your sins be forgiven thee.' And the man was fine with that. But then there came scribes and Pharisees looking for something that they can catch him on. And He said, you thinking in your hearts that God has not given man the power to forgive sins? He said, but so that you will know that the Son of Man hath power on earth. He said, take up your bed and walk. So if we just understand when we're looking at the scripture, it's like the perfect analogy you made earlier in regards to the house. And go back to another point that you made in regards to Joshua when he said, "As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord," talking about a house in that capacity pertaining to my family. And that's a connect that we can make today, because when Jesus said, "Who are my brothers and sisters and mother? Those who do the will of my Father." That's that house now, that house that you're speaking of.
Yes, sir.
I was making a point earlier because the leader was drawing people's attention to the physical building today. And I was like, no, that's not the physical building that the scripture was talking about. When God said, to Moses build that tabernacle, that tent right there, or when it became the temple that Solomon built, that those are those buildings that God was saying is his in the midst of Israel. Y'all got y'alls. And David said, here I am living in a house of cedar and stone, but you're dwelling in a tent, right? But today, since we don't have that house any longer, we now become exactly and precisely what it is that you said. We are that household that makes up the church. And it's pertinent for everyone to understand that. I never thought of that, and I'm going to run with that going forward for people to understand, because that draws the line between the house that was then versus the house that's today. And when you look at the two, the difference mainly, of course, is the covenant. Whereas back then they were under the old covenant, right? Along with the commandments, which people don't really understand the law, has sections to it, right? There's ceremonial laws, there's statutes, that apply to the land, the territory that was Israel. But then you have moral laws that we're still, of course, held to today. But today, because we're a part of that spiritual household, we're no longer expected to, required, or even is there a temple for anybody to offer anything to God in today, right? And people hear that and say, wait a minute, so you're saying on earth? I'm like, well, yeah, on earth. Well, how could that be? Well, how was it back then that only one place on earth was his? Because he said so. And if you take away that one place, well, then how many places does that leave? Even then, how many temples was there on earth compared to Solomon's? Right? Solomon built additional temples to idol gods, right? But in Israel, there was only one, and that was the one where God said, I've chosen this place to myself. But there around the world, we got to know that there were so many temples. Even the book of Acts talks about the temple of Diana, right? And all over the place. But that was not in Israel. So the one place, as he said, son, if the stranger come from a far country to this place. So today is the same thing. If he destroyed that place, and there's no need to erect another place because he did away with sacrifice, well, where in the world can you go and find God's house today? Man, that sounds so simple. It is that simple. And all we have to do is direct attention to those words and away from our beliefs and our philosophies, and just adhere to what it is that he said, and you'll be fine.
That's right. And really, even as a pastor, I used to say this. A lot of people that didn't like for me to say this. But most Christians don't really believe in Jesus.
True.
If they did believe in Jesus, then they would realize those points.
Right.
Jesus was that sacrifice, the great sacrifice. Nothing could be any greater. Nothing could be any, equivalent to that.
Right. Right.
But if you believe, then that's something that you will not only understand, you'll check somebody who tried to tell you, you got to do some stuff.
Yeah. I've even shared, like you just said, with even people who call themselves Christians, like, you don't even know what a Christian is. You think just saying that you believe in Jesus makes you a Christian? That's not a Christian at all. So to your point, if that message were to resonate and go around the world, and all these people hear and understood it, and just take hold of that one thing, if nothing else, just that one thing, and then begin to chew on that for a while and direct their attention to the word, that would change the trajectory of so many people's relationship with him. Just like that,
Yes, sir.
right? And they let go of believing in people that they're putting in these positions where they become a middleman between them and uh, the Lord. Um,
What they think is a middleman ain't nothing but a blockage.
right. That's leading them somewhere else.
Constipation.
Yes, sir. Well, with that said, I'm looking at the time. We just hit 2 hours.
Oh my God, for real?
Yeah. I
Oh
didn't
my
know
goodness.
either. So, we can keep this thing going. I'll be looking forward to bringing you back on. And we'll see what else we can tackle next. In fact, we can go into some of the basics of foundations of a new believer or a new convert. I'm gonna jot that down, and that'll be a very interesting one to go into. And it's necessary because people today need to know. A lot of people asking, well, what now? And so that's why I'm kind of going in that direction. But with that said, sir, it has been more than good, more than a pleasure, more than an honor, more than a privilege. I look forward to next time. I know that individuals are going to be more than excited to hear you on this particular video. In the meantime, is there anything else you wanted to say before we head out?
I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. You're making me excited. I like even the testimonies that I'm giving. I've forgotten a lot of this stuff. It was just my daily life, and as we talk about it, more and more come up. Like I had even forgotten, about when I had said before that I had a service where I would preach in sign language. I forgot about that. I just remembered it in that moment that I said it.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, yeah. So thank you for everything you're doing. I believe that, like I said, I have faith. I don't know if I said it on a video before, but I know I told you before. I have faith in the Most High, of course, but I also have faith in your faith. I've known you for many years, and I've seen your faith. I've seen that when you believe something and you're working towards something, there's going to be that outcome. You don't even know when, because your faith is in the Most High.
Right.
And so it's in the Most High's time and in the Most High's way. What I have learned is to just wait for it. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you once again. I'm grateful. I enjoyed this.
Absolutely. I appreciate those words, and thank you as well. Individuals, they needed to hear that. I'm reminded of what he said, though it may tarry, still wait on it. Right? Whatever it is that he said. And in some of these instances, this is what we are looking towards because we know that he works and we know that he's going to keep his word. We know that he's not a part of wickedness and he's not behind people being abused and misused, and especially not behind any fraudulent doctrines or gospels. And there's way too many here for him to ignore, especially given the fact that people who are looking for him and who sincerely believe that they found him are being led further and further away from him. I wholeheartedly believe that this is not just a wake-up call, but this is a reckoning that's coming. And I'm looking at down the line what's going to come as a result. So without saying too much more and giving any more information to the opposite side of the field, we're going to go ahead and conclude this huddle, and we'll get back to the game. There's a couple more seconds left on the clock before halftime, and we'll see which way he takes it from here. In the meantime, sir, it's always good. I'll be reaching out again real soon. And until next time, continue to hang in there. Do what it is that you're doing, as always. I love you. I miss you. I look forward to the next time. Please let family know, son and wife and everyone else know that we asked for them. And Be looking forward to the next time. Until then,
Yes, sir.
you take care of yourself and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Likewise. Same thing to Mary and the children.
I sure will. Yes, sir, and you enjoy the rest of your evening
Thank
and
you. You do the
the
same.
weekend that's now here on the 4th. Have a good one.
Thank you. Likewise.
And bye-bye. Thank you, everybody, for joining in with us, and we'll see you next time.